It was mid-morning on a Friday, and I was already counting down the hours until I could leave the office. Not that inside sales is entirely dull. Mind you, it is, but it still falls short of golf or, let's be honest, sex. If it were up to me, my life would pretty much revolve around those two activities. But that's just a fantasy, isn't it? Anyway, let me give you a bit of background on me. I'm Ethan Evans. I guess I'm your usual guy, though. A bit on the shorter side. I'm 5 feet, 6 inches and weigh around 170 pounds with a 36-inch waist. I don't have the kind of physique that causes women to swoon, but I like to think they wouldn't run the other way either. I am 48 years old, with mostly dark hair and enough gray to remind me that I am not getting any younger. My eyes are probably my best feature. They're blue, though I've had a few friends and family members argue that they look gray at times. My wife Emma and I have been married for 18 years. She's 44, and I still find her really appealing. Emma's the type of woman who catches the eye of a lot of men, though not necessarily every man for me. There's something about her that drives me crazy. She's 5 feet, 7 inches, and while she won't tell me her exact weight, I'm guessing she's around 145 pounds. Not exactly what some might consider skinny, but she's still stunning to me. I absolutely love watching the way her hips move when she walks, and let's not forget her legs. After years of careful, albeit unofficial observation, I consider myself something of an expert on women's legs. Her hair is still mostly light brown, though I haven't seen the exact color in 3 or 4 years. She swears her colorist uses the same shade as her natural hair, so I'll take her word on it. Emma and I met when I initially got to town and chose to look at an apartment in a complex she maintained at the time. She was attractive enough to catch my eye, but not initially so much that I was tongue-tied or anything. I guess that turned out to be in my favor, because her personality very quickly started to make up for whatever little was necessary to give her a wow factor, and I was able to be relatively smooth. I admit it was a little easier since we had built-in business to discuss. That allowed us to get acquainted with no pressure. She was very friendly, as I knew she had to be to prospective new tenants, but I assumed she wasn't required to ask me to join her for coffee after I signed the lease, which she did again. She could have simply been being friendly, but I allowed myself to think maybe she had some interest. It happened to be late afternoon as we wrapped up the paperwork, so she knocked off about 15 minutes early, and we went to continue talking and drink a latte. By the way, in case you're asking, I actually did like the apartment and believed the monthly rent was competitive as well. We had a great discussion. I learned that Emma had worked in retail for a few years after graduating from high school, but decided after a couple years that she wanted to better herself. So she started going to school again and eventually graduated with a BA in marketing. She still didn't know what she wanted for a profession at that time, but thought that marketing would give her a better chance in most sorts of organizations to pursue a number of various career alternatives. She wanted to get out of retail at the very least. She enjoyed the work and the interaction with customers, but hated the number of weekend and evening hours she had to work, though it had never been a consideration. She found an ad on Monster for a leasing agent property manager at a huge apartment complex and was intrigued. She believed it would be a more professional employment and still allow her the ability to engage with clients, but also give her more normal hours. She had been there about 18 months when we met and was really enjoying it. I offered her my story. I had graduated from a small private college in the Midwest at the age of 22, with a business administration degree, much like her. I didn't know enough about what I wanted to do for a career while I was still in school, to focus on the things that would have allowed me to make myself more competitive. As a result, I bounced from one entry-level job to another for a few years before I finally figured out a couple of things about myself. First, I did not enjoy being held accountable for the performance of others. I learned that through a couple of junior supervisory positions, such as night parking manager of a hotel in the city where I lived at the time. Second, however, I appreciated the competitiveness of sales, the fact that I had to intentionally make myself think about smiling, even when I was in a good mood, made it more of a challenge for me to create a quick rapport when meeting individuals in person for the first time. Obviously, this complicates outside sales efforts. It was through a fair amount of self-analysis and exploring, a few less than ideal career paths, that I finally figured out that inside sales works very well for me. I was still able to appreciate the competitive part of sales in general and leverage on my strong speaking voice. I wasn't, however, limited by those aspects of myself that would make working in outside sales more of a challenge. It was interesting. I found myself smiling extremely naturally around Emma and without having to think about it. When it finally occurred to me to look at my watch, I found that we had been there for hours. "Emma, I'll be glad to stay and keep talking as long as you're interested, but I also want to be mindful of your schedule. Should we call it an evening?" I assume it goes without saying that we'll get together again very soon, right? I've always heard that women value confidence. So I figured, what the heck? "Pretty sure of yourself there, aren't you, Ethan?" she said with a laugh. "Okay, give me a call at the office when you're almost done moving your stuff into your apartment, and maybe I'll bring the pizza and beer over." "Okay. I don't think we're quite to the stage of me helping you move just yet." I laughed and told her that it was a deal. I walked her out to her car and wondered about a kiss. Finally, I decided to try to avoid any awkwardness by being very proactive about not kissing. Or should I say, trying to kiss her as I opened her door. I said, "I hope you're satisfied with the captivating conversation this evening." So many women view me as just a body, and it really does get tiresome after a while. That was a terrific move. As it turned out, she laughed heartily as she climbed into the car. Later, I learned that she appreciated my efforts to make that situation as easy as possible. I decided for once in my life to just let things to play out. I was interested in seeing Emma again and hoped she was in me, but I didn't let her to overwhelm my thoughts and certainly not my schedule, as I was fresh in town and starting a new job. I poured myself into learning everything I could about my company's and our competitors' products. We were an industrial supply company, so there was a lot of products, but none of them needed much of an effort on my part. All our items were actually more of a commodity. Our real product in terms of sales was our service. Specifically, we managed inventory levels on behalf of our customers in such a way that we could maximize either their level of inventory or their order quantities, depending on whether they derived greater value from a little better price or from the savings of keeping inventory levels as low as possible without risking running out of important items. I guess I was lucky enough to be one of the few to come to the realization of what our real competitive advantage was, because I became our company's top producer after about 18 months or so. However, enough of effort. I'm sure you care more about how things developed with Emma. As I stated before, I was Mr. Cool with Emma. I found a legitimate excuse to drop by the office a few days later and told her how much I enjoyed our conversation and would welcome the opportunity to do it again. But I didn't try to set anything up. I wanted to be sure she was interested. A week or so later, she stopped by my house shortly before leaving for work on a Sunday afternoon. Saturday and Sunday were two of her busiest days, so she took Monday and Tuesday off to let me know about the complex's pool mixer the following weekend. Because she could have simply called and the entire complex was plastered with flyers advertising the mixer, I believed I could take it as an indication she wanted to get together again. Thus began our relationship, which was a textbook example of how a couple should start a romance. Though we were both plainly interested in one another on a romantic level, we took things gently. To be honest, the teasing, if you call it that, was sort of enjoyable. We would see one another once every couple of weeks or so. I was definitely very excited to see her again the next time, and liked to think she felt the same way. We would also talk on the phone once or twice a week. Furthermore, we spent the majority of our time together in a casual setting. We were both homebodies, a term I despise. We would enjoy sitting together and watching one of our favorite reality TV shows every bit as much as many would like going out for a great dinner and dancing. She seemed to understand my dry, sarcastic sense of humor, which was a plus. As I indicated previously, we also had a terrific time without getting physical for quite some time in the beginning. Now let's not get carried away. I would never want to go back to that. But it was cool for a while, and I always thought kind of characterized us as a couple to some extent. We played a game of one-upmanship based on comments similar to the one I described earlier, with me simply being a body of which I was extremely proud. Gradually, our time together became more and more frequent until we were spending several evenings or lunches a week together. Even though the chemistry appeared to be there, the enjoyment we had not being physical became almost awkward. I believe we had gone along in that manner for so long that neither of us knew how to stop the loop. That all changed one day when we took my dog, Sophie, to the dog park. No one knew what breed Sophie was, although the ever-popular Label Lab mix came up frequently when the matter was addressed. We were walking back to the car from the enclosed play area when I stepped on a loose pebble or something and fell. Of course, being myself, I made it look as ridiculous as could possibly have been done. Emma began laughing hysterically, and Sophie approached and began licking my face, or as dog lovers would say, giving me kisses. "That must be the first kiss you've had in months," Emma exclaimed, laughing so hard she almost burst into tears. "So if I can't get it from you, I might as well get it from Sophie." As soon as the comment left my mouth, I panicked. It just sprang out without my thinking. Emma had several options for how to react to it. I was obviously hoping for a lighthearted banter type of response. I was extremely astonished by what she did. She dropped on her knees and then straddled me. I'm not sure if she mentioned that she had no idea I was waiting for her. Regardless, she immediately covered my mouth with hers and proceeded to give me what was the hottest kiss I'd ever had in my life. Remember when you were younger, and the slightest touch or gesture could set your heart pounding and leave you feeling overwhelmed? That's what it felt like after such a long period of emotional control, if that's the proper term, considering it was self-imposed. Her touch was simultaneously eager and tender. At that point, I was well past the age when a simple kiss could have the same effect, but I couldn't deny that the intensity remained. It was clear that we needed to leave soon as things were escalating quickly, and we couldn't continue in a public setting without drawing unwanted attention. So we decided to go to her apartment where we could completely focus on each other. Pick your cliché about fireworks, chemistry, or whatever. The time we spent together throughout the day, evening, and night far exceeded anything I could accurately convey, as I'm sure you can tell. Our transition into a physical relationship acted as a catalyst, propelling us to become husband and wife in all but legal terms. We were rarely apart, unless one of us was working or I was playing golf. I even attempted to get her to join me on the golf course at least occasionally, but she refused, citing that as my cave time. I was overjoyed, and she expressed her happiness as well, despite the fact that I had no specific reason to marry. I couldn't imagine ever wanting anyone else. So, a few months later, I asked the question at the same time that the protagonist did in the current season of The Bachelor. You might think it wasn't very romantic, but it was very romantic for us because it worked out so well. Emma laughed until she cried. Or maybe it was the other way around, but as soon as she could get a breath, she said, "Not that you don't already know, but I guess I owe you an official." Yes. Of course, that made me extremely happy. Marriages, it appears, do not last forever. Ours started off highly thrilling and adventurous, but soon settled into something more pleasant and comfortable. Emma and I appreciated many of the same things, but also had our distinct hobbies. Sure, we thought about kids, but just never felt it was the appropriate time. Initially, we were just enjoying one another too much to add to the mix thereafter. I believe it was simply an issue of inertia. We continued to have what I would characterize a realistically vibrant sex life. We went through the standard, I presume, development of 2+ times a day to 2 to 4 times a week to numerous times a week. That was okay with me. I was 46 years old and my libido was no longer what it had been. I still very much enjoyed our intimate time together, but didn't require it continuously like I used to, and suppose Emma felt the same way. Early on, we played with different postures, role acting, dirty banter, and so on. It was a lot of fun to explore, but we found that the more fundamental positions and actions were as delightful for us as ones that would be seen as more wild or exciting. Emma probably started changing around 2 years ago. It was so gradual and delicate that I didn't even realize it at the time. She was less interested in sex and seldom dressed in a manner that would elicit my attention around the house. That was rather usual after a few years of marriage, right? Interestingly, at the same time, she dressed even nicer for work. She almost always wore gorgeous heels, and whereas skirts were once only worn on special occasions, she now wears them practically every day. When I asked her about it, she explained that her role demanded a more defined image. By this point, she had been promoted to regional manager of her property management company and was highly liked within her organization. As I had indicated previously, Emma had lost interest in our sexual relationship, and despite the fact that my libido had decreased in recent years, I still desired more than I was receiving. I had started to reading web stories in recent months to keep myself sexually fulfilled. At that time, I was reading the spank stories where the sex was extremely graphically depicted, and any cheating that may happen was regarded to be exciting by any and all participants. One day I was reading a story and just getting ready to take care of business, which I only did at times, where Emma had a late meeting or entertained business acquaintance over dinner. Something struck me about the story I was reading. It was told from the lady's perspective. The protagonist's name was Linda. She was from a place only a few hours away from us. She had been married to her husband, Steve, for 2 years, fewer than we had been. Linda was the CEO of a property management company, and Steve was a sales support representative for an industrial supply company. Linda stood 5 feet, 9 inches tall and weighed 130 pounds. She had stunning dark hair and blue eyes. Steve was 5 feet 5 inches and weighed 190 with graying and thinning hair. You see where this is going, right? The core of the narrative was that Steve had some anxieties about his relationship with Linda, and that unhappiness had produced some tension. By this time, it was evident that I, too, had lost any interest in anything beyond the comfort and warmth of my own little zone. Neither of us liked reading novels that humiliated or belittled males. Linda loved Steve despite his insecurities and remained committed. However, recognizing what turned Steve on, she occasionally brought other guys into their home, while Steve was off working or fishing. Steve knew about this agreement, although it was never openly discussed. At this point, I couldn't shake the feeling that this story was strangely similar to our situation. I'm not sure if Emma read this story, wrote it herself, or had one of her previous partners write it, but it made me wonder. I decided to call in sick from work and make the necessary trip to Radio Shack to purchase all of the voice-activated recording devices and motion-activated cameras. I assumed those were just literary conveniences, but they actually exist, at least for the purposes of my story. It turns out we don't have a lot of locations to hide those types of devices, but ultimately I found enough sites to put the microphones and cameras that I felt like I had. Most of the critical areas are covered. As you may have guessed, it was tough to attempt to be normal around Emma over the following few days, but I made the effort. I'd truly feel silly if my suspicions were inaccurate. Even if they are. However, recent events convinced me that Emma and I needed to have an open discussion about the physical aspect of our relationship. Maybe I had made too many assumptions. We certainly communicated very openly and honestly about everything else, and I believed she would let me know if she weren't satisfied with how things were going in the bedroom. Now that I think about it, I suppose I wasn't necessarily happy with things and hadn't brought it up with her. Now back to where we started the story. I was looking forward to leaving the office at 3 Gao this afternoon to go fishing. Read Friday Skins game. This was my first real opportunity to determine whether I was simply paranoid or if the similarities in the preceding story were more than coincidence. Finally, 3 hour came and I was out the door in a flash. Needless to say, it was a handicap maintenance day for me. I shot a 97, not a good round for a 13 handicap, but who could blame me? I wasn't exactly thinking about golf when I got home. It was business as usual. She asked about my round. I told her that I played like crap. Any real golfer never plays well, right? We went through the motions, which I now recognized we had been going through for a couple of years. For my part, I could only think of checking my monitoring devices. I finally had my chance on Sunday afternoon when Emma went to the mall, or maybe she one of the mall. At this point, I really didn't care. Yes, it was becoming increasingly difficult to wait for evidence before confronting her. Let's face it, what was going to happen when I did? Especially with just suspicions. Exactly. She would either deny it, where she would simply tell me I was correct, and that she wasn't sorry or interested in trying to make amends. Neither of those were a good option, in my opinion. At least, if I could get some proof, I could have some righteous indignation. Hey, small victories sometimes. Well, it was as bad as my worst mental images. I'm afraid I didn't know the guy and honestly didn't care, right? Right. I know I should want to punch him out, but he knew nothing about me. Emma, on the other hand, did nothing much, of course. Just some little bit about forsaking all others and some respect. Two things really hurt me about what I saw and heard. First, I realized how much more remarkable the person was in certain respects. I had always considered myself to be fairly average, but I had no idea Emma had any concerns. I guess I was naive to believe all of the reassuring advice that people frequently give. Like it's not about size, it's about how you connect. That idea felt hollow in the moment. Emma was also extremely vocal with him, complimenting him in ways that were completely unfamiliar to me. The emotional weight of it was overwhelming. Like the time I lost my job unexpectedly. But this felt 10 times worse. It seemed like the whole life had been drained from me. I'll admit it. Sitting there at my desk, I broke down and cried for what felt like hours. What was I supposed to do now? One thing was for sure. I had to get away until I could collect my thoughts. I couldn't face Emma and for sure couldn't pretend everything was okay with us. Damn. How did I know she cared about things being okay between us? I suppose the thought that crossed my mind was arrogant. If she didn't care enough about me to be faithful, why should I believe she cared enough to stay with me? Now, Emma, side of story. My time with Bill had been enjoyable that afternoon. To be honest, the initial excitement was starting to fade a little, but I was still looking forward to a relaxing evening with Ethan, including dinner and maybe some quiet time together. Lately, though, Ethan seemed to be in a bit of a strange mood. He usually came home from golf around 7, so I started to wonder where he was when he still hadn't returned by 8. He hadn't left a message, so I called him, but it went straight to voicemail. That was unusual as he rarely had his phone turned off, not knowing what else to try. I went upstairs and noticed a lot of Ethan's things missing from the top of his dresser. I checked the bathroom and again saw a lot of his toiletry stuff missing. Concerned, I checked his closet and discovered that many of his clothes had gone missing. Now I was panicking. It was just then that I noticed his wedding ring sitting on my dresser, looking very lonely and quiet, yet speaking volumes. How could he possibly know? Now that I thought about it, I never considered the possibility of him finding out or what would happen if he did. I know that seems too hard to believe, but it's real. Or perhaps more likely. I had long since quit thinking about such things or feeling guilty about what I was doing. I thought back to how it started with Bill. He was also married, but took a lot of interest in me, and it was so flattering. Ethan never gave me a reason to feel the need to find attention elsewhere, but still, having someone new and different show interest and be attracted to me was so incredible. When he finally managed to convince me to spend time with him, I have to admit it was beyond anything I had experienced previously. I had always been content with Ethan, but as I mentioned earlier, Bill's presence felt like a whole new level of connection over the past couple of years. I've noticed that my desire to be with Ethan has waned, owing primarily to my relationship with Bill. It's only now that I'm realizing how much that has impacted things. I left Ethan several voicemails, but it was clear that he had no intention of returning my calls. I had no means of knowing where he was or what he was doing. Will he choose to divorce me? And honestly, did I even care anymore? Not that it would end up being my choice, but I'd better figure out what I wanted. If I wanted Ethan, I needed to figure out how to make him want to keep me. Ethan wasn't the yelling and screaming type, but this may put that to the test. I finally went to bed about the time it was getting light outside. I don't know if I slept or not. I know that entire weekend was nothing more than a nightmare in which I felt like I had a lead ball in my stomach. Bill tried calling me several times, but I ignored him. I went back to work on Monday but slept. On Tuesday, I also went over my responsibilities. Finally, on Wednesday evening, Ethan called Ethan. I guess you found out. I'm so sorry. So very sorry. I did not want you to find out in this way. Hell, I don't even know how you found out. Well, I guess we've established one thing. You aren't even sorry you did it. You're just sorry you were caught. That's not what I mean, Ethan. I would argue that this is exactly what you meant. Tell me about why you did this. What was missing in our relationship and why I wasn't able to satisfy you in the bedroom? Emma. Then we may have something more to discuss. Assuming you have any interest in any negotiations, would you rather just get a divorce? No. I mean, I can't honestly say I can answer any of those questions right now, with the exception of one. I definitely don't want a divorce. Well, call me when and only when you can answer those questions. Then we may be able to figure out whether there is still in us and what to do about it. Okay, Ethan, I will. And thank you for being willing to chat. I mean, Ethan, as I previously stated, was not a fly-by-night type of person, but I was nonetheless amazed by how nicely he handled this situation. It sounded like we still had a chance. The discussion, of course, revealed that I was terribly unprepared to answer the difficult questions that he was entitled to. I planned to call in ill the next day so that I wouldn't be distracted by job concerns and could spend time thinking about these things. My emotions were muddled. I was feeling very guilty, of course, for some reason, however, and I really hate to admit this. I was feeling sorry for myself, for having been caught, and for the potential of losing Bill. Trust me when I say I know that won't get me any sympathy with anyone, but since I've been caught, I may as well be honest. I sat at the kitchen table holding a notepad. I'm not sure why, but it seemed like a good idea to have one along with a cup of coffee. I thought about the questions Ethan offered to me. I guess it must have been hours because I drank the majority of a pot of coffee and then smelled something burning, which turned out to be the little bit left in the bottom of the pot, burnt to the point where I would probably have to throw the pot away at the end of the day. I needed to rely on Ethan's love and forgiveness. The truth was, this happened simply because I enjoyed the attention from someone else. I liked and valued Ethan's attention and care, but I had become somewhat accustomed to it. While he was great in every way, the reality was that the connection we once had didn't feel the same to me now. The attention I received from someone else had impacted how I felt in my relationship with Ethan, and I felt deep guilt for it. I cried again as I thought about it. Ethan didn't deserve to be in this circumstance. I spent the next day at work, on the weekend, thinking about what I should say to Ethan. I knew if I didn't reach out quickly, there could be no point. But if I didn't have the appropriate answers, would it really matter? Sunday afternoon, I finally called. I got Ethan's voicemail and left him a message indicating that I wanted to talk when he was willing. He called me back about an hour and a half later. Hi, Emma. Ethan, thank you for calling back. So you're ready to talk? I don't like some of my answers, but I'm as ready as I think I'll ever be. How about lunch tomorrow, then go through a drive-through and get what you want? Then meet me in the park. Okay, Ethan. What time? 12:30. Near the pond. See you then." He had already hung up as I attempted to sleep that night. I grappled with what I told Ethan. I had to admit that I wanted my cake and eat it too. If Bill were single, would I feel differently? Probably. I had to admit the sex with him was just so much better, though it was getting less exciting recently. I'd have to figure out why and do something about it, assuming I got the chance. By the time I fell asleep, I had a plan. It was a risky plan, to be sure, but at least it was something. And I guess that was better than nothing. Maybe it was Machiavellian of me, but I wore Ethan's favorite dress the next day. A blue dress that showed just a hint of the roundness of my breasts, and a skirt that showed the bottom part of my thighs. I know Ethan has always loved my legs. Would you believe I was also wearing sexy underwear? Yes, I understand. But hey, why were we in this position in the first place? I suppose I have proved that I don't always quite think all that clearly. At the time, I figured it couldn't hurt. Ethan looked cold when he sat down beside me at 12:40. He arrived a few minutes late, but what could I say? I waited a minute and finally spoke. Well, nothing like being made to feel comfortable with a tough discussion, right? Yes, I understand. I deserved it, Ethan. I don't know where to begin. First of all, you've been the best husband any woman could hope for. I guess that makes all this even worse. I truly can't think of anything you've done or not done that caused this. I still don't know how you found out, and I guess that doesn't matter. But I never wanted to hurt you. That being said, I have to admit that my connection with Bill has been fulfilling in ways that I hadn't expected. I don't want to hurt you, but this is the truth. What we shared at first was fantastic, and it lasted a long time. It's just that with Bill, I feel a different kind of connection. None of this is an excuse, of course. I know I don't want a divorce. I love you deeply. Despite what I've said, I hope you can believe it. I truly value everything about our life together. I'm not unsatisfied with our connection. It's just that there are portions of it that don't fulfill me in the same way the rest of our lives does. I understand you are likely not to want to do this, but would you consider us staying together but allowing me to continue my relationship with Bill? My stomach was in knots as I waited what seemed like forever. I was such a stupid, selfish woman for asking this. Finally, Ethan responded, "I have to admit I'm surprised. I would have expected you to tell me you wanted a divorce, if that's how you feel about our sex life. If I consider this. How can I be convinced you truly do love me?" I was stunned. I don't know what I expected, but this certainly was not it. I was completely prepared to hear that he would divorce me outright. I thought that there may perhaps be a very tiny chance he'd forgive me. Eventually, after insisting that Bill couldn't be part of the equation. Never in a million years did I expect this, though. I finally responded, though I was entirely unprepared to say anything articulate. I probably can't offer you a solid explanation for that other than to say that if you give me the chance, you'll undoubtedly feel loved and appreciated. Emma, I don't feel particularly loved or cherished right now, but you probably don't care. Do you? Though that criticism was well justified. It seemed like Ethan had punched me in the face and stomach at the same moment, as hard as he possibly could, and knocked me to the floor. The tears came instantly, and it was some time before I could answer. Just to be clear, Ethan would never hit me in anger. He's way too much of a man to do that. I don't know what to say to Ethan. I'll give Bill up if you tell me to. I assume you know his name. I still don't even know how you found out. And I suppose it doesn't matter. I'm sure things with him will eventually fizzle out anyway. Okay. The fact that you're willing to give him up if I make you is enough for me, for the time being. I won't make you do that, though. This was becoming more surprising by the minute. My heart jumped, but I was afraid to get too excited. I was mostly thrilled that Ethan was apparently going to consider us continuing together, but to be allowed to maintain my relationship with Bill. That was more than I had hoped for, even though I definitely came to this discussion looking for that very thing. Here is what will happen. You can accept it or we can divorce. Okay. Anything, Ethan, I assure you that you will not be disappointed. Make sure that I don't. First and foremost, I will not be sharing the space with him. I guess I haven't really been sharing all that much with you lately, but I definitely won't be comfortable with things that cross that line for as long as you choose to continue seeing him. I'll move downstairs. We've been meaning to finish the basement anyway, so I'll turn it into a bedroom and bathroom. Essentially, we'll live as housemates until you decide you're done with him. You're welcome to have him over, but please don't be overly affectionate in front of me. If that happens, it'll be the end for us. Does that work for you? The surprises kept coming. I was overwhelmed with happiness, but also sad at the same time. What was the point of remaining married if Ethan was moving out of the bedroom? Maybe he'll change his mind about that. I had to hope. Of course, you have every right to place whatever requirements on it you want, Ethan. I'm just so grateful you're staying with me at all. I hope eventually you'll decide you want to have a closer relationship again. That's probably entirely up to you and how you make me feel. Emma. Ethan returned home the next day and immediately hired a contractor to work on the basement. Our 2 other bedrooms had already been made into an office and workout room. I tried to get him to sleep in our bedroom, at least until the basement was finished, but he would have none of it. I tried to get him to let me take the couch, but he would have none of that either. That obviously really made me feel guilty, like I needed to feel more guilty. But then maybe that was the point. I waited a few days and then called Bill back. What took you so long to call, baby? Why didn't you answer my calls? He knows Bill. What? How does he know? Does it matter? He knows. And he was very hurt, as you can understand. Yes, I guess so. So, is it over? You might think so, but no. He's good with us. Keeping in touch. Are you kidding? What a pushover. I can't believe this. Bill, let me make one thing clear. Ethan is not a pushover. And if you call him that again, it will be the last time we speak. Do you understand? I am sure you are impressed with me right now, and I'm probably earning your respect. All right. I get it. Calm down. I just want to make that very clear up front. Anyway, he's fine with us seeing one another, but while we are, he and I will essentially be living as roommates. He's moving out of the bedroom and making a room for himself downstairs. So, what do you care? You get to stay married, and we can see each other too. You're correct, but I'm still wondering why. And honestly, I'm wondering why bother calling it a marriage. We made arrangements to meet the following day during lunch, but at a local motel rather than at our house. For some reason, I didn't want to come here yet. Interesting. I had permission now, but I wanted to be courteous about it, at least at first. My mind continued to churn. Why was Ethan reacting this way? It wasn't perfect, but it was still too good to be true. Ethan and I would see one another in passing in the evenings, and he was pleasant, even friendly. But I could have been a male drinking partner. There was no intimacy at all, physical or otherwise. I attempted to have more personal, non-sexual discussions with him, but he politely changed the subject. I was definitely starting to feel that part of me was missing. I met Bill the next day, and the sex was just okay. I just can't pretend otherwise. I wish I could explain it or change it, but I couldn't. It was like all the excitement was gone. Now that Ethan knew, was it just the deception that made it exciting before? Or was it starting to become clear that I needed love as well as lust? And the lust by itself just wasn't working for me anymore, now that I didn't feel like I had love. As I continued to think, I gradually realized that I had what I thought I wanted. Now that I got it, though, it wasn't at all what I had thought that it would be. Have you ever heard of a parent locking their child in a closet and forcing them to smoke several cigarettes when they catch them smoking? I nearly felt like that's what was happening to me. In some ways, that just couldn't be how Ethan was thinking about it. Or could it? That would be a very elaborate form of revenge. I questioned why he didn't seem to need retribution, but maybe he was getting the ultimate payback. On the way home, I went by the bank. I don't even remember why anymore. But I thought I'd ask for a printout while I was there, just to make sure my math was correct in the checkbook. and was stunned to find my balance seriously depleted. I checked our meager savings account too and found that half of that balance was gone. When I inquired, I was informed that Ethan and I had each withdrawn half of our respective balances a few days prior. Now I was beginning to reel. I guess I was seeing just how serious all this was. I had to talk to Ethan about it when I got home. "Ethan, can we talk?" I inquired as soon as I walked through the door and noticed him sitting on the couch, watching his favorite college basketball team. He had a bird puppet with a big red head and yellow beak, sporting the letters Q on its blue body in his hand. He was sitting forward, switching between concentrating and yelling at the TV. I couldn't help but wonder what made the Tigers so much worse than any other team. I might have thought it was cute if I wasn't so frustrated about us. He eventually became aware of my presence and paused the game. "Don't we just love DVR? What can I do for you, Emma?" "Ethan, why did you take half our money out of our checking and savings accounts?" "Well, I figured until we ever have a true marriage again, it didn't make sense to share financial things. Don't worry, there is a check for half of the mortgage and utilities on the table." "That isn't the point, Ethan. It's not the money. It's more distance between us." Ethan looked thoughtful for a moment and then spoke. "I don't get it, Emma. You wanted to be able to play with other men, but didn't want to give up anything in our relationship. Remember I said I'd give him up if you wanted me to. That's not fair, Ethan. So you didn't want to do it because it was the correct thing to do? Or because you respected me? Only if it was the only way for us to stay together." "Well, when you put it like that, my God, this wasn't going like it wanted it to go at all. What was I planning to do? I had truly opened a can of worms here and was beginning to recognize that. Now, Emma, let me help you with something here. I agreed to stay married since I wasn't 100% sure that I had been as proactive as I should have been with sharing our wants and feelings with one another. As the years passed, I didn't want to just leave. Even though you cheated on me, on us, without making sure I went more than my share of the distance to make our relationship vibrant and mutually fulfilling. Having said that, let me make one point clear. I might not meet your expectations in every way, and I regret that. But it's who I am. I may not be able to elicit the same emotions in you as I once could, but I still have pride and self-esteem, and I will not tolerate disrespect. What do you think our friends and family will think of me? What would my co-workers say if they knew you had someone else in your life and that I was aware of it and was somehow expected to accept it? I'm sharing with you all, being left in the dark. Sorry, that's not something I'm willing to accept. Let me ask one more question. I haven't mentioned it before, but how long have you been seeing Bill? I haven't been with Bill. Just seeing Bill with seeing whatever. How long? Ethan was getting angry now. The layers of what I had done to him were just beginning to surface, and I was growing more disillusioned with myself and my situation by the minute. I started crying again. Almost a year. This was followed by a prolonged silence. A year. A year? Yes, again. No point in lying now, was there? So here's the deal. 1 year after you decide to cease dating Bill or anybody else, we can talk about whether we can become husband and wife in more than just name. If you do not mind, this game is important. The pieces were starting to fall together. Now I was realizing how much of a bitch I had been and how badly I had hurt the man I now knew I loved more than ever. I knew there was no point in pleading my case. Not only had I cheated on Ethan, but I had the arrogance, lack of sensitivity, and selfishness to ask him to keep on doing it, but also keep all the things I liked best at the time about our marriage. God, I was starting to despise myself. A year was going to be a very long time, but there was no question that I was going to wait it out. I guess another month or so wouldn't matter, would it? Maybe just 1 or 2 more times with Bill to be able to enjoy the memories. You guessed it. I called Bill, and we met again the next day. I am clearly the poster child for self-destructive behavior, but I did it anyway. After another couple of hours with Bill, I wanted to use steel wool to purify myself. It wasn't exciting. It didn't feel great. I felt dirty and cheap. I told him, as I left to return home, that I was never interested in seeing or hearing from him again. To add insult to injury, he did not appear to care. I hadn't wanted him to argue so much that it made it uncomfortable to break things between us, but I had hoped he'd try to convince me out of moving on for the sake of my ego. This situation was getting better and better all the time. Surely Ethan couldn't have planned things to come out this way, could he? He had no idea how I'd start to feel or that Bill would eventually dump me. Well, he may as well have, right? I told Ethan the next day that Bill and I were done. I don't know what I was expecting. I guess I was hoping he'd be delighted about it, take me into his arms and forgive me. Yes, I understand. He simply made a note on the calendar, then turned to me. I'm delighted to hear you've made that decision. You should understand I don't believe you and don't believe you won't find someone else. You're going to have to prove to me that you haven't been with any other men for a year from now in order to get me back. I have no idea how you'll achieve that. But that's not my problem. Ethan started to walk away and then turned around. Oh, so you're not surprised by it. I'll be having a friend over for dinner tomorrow night. So the final blow had come. This had to be the last blow, right? Hadn't I learned my lesson by now? Just to facilitate my self-pity, let me recap. After getting caught, I 1 found the sex with my lover. Immediately got boring. 2 that started to miss the emotional intimacy of my marriage terribly. 3 became aware of how significant the non-sexual aspect of my physical relationship with my husband was, and now was lost. 4 despised himself because of the guilt he was experiencing. 5 hurt badly as a result of the pain I had caused Ethan. 6. Now I could enjoy a sudden and overwhelming jealousy. Interesting how it never occurred to me that he might take an interest in someone else. Other than that, it had been a relatively decent last few weeks. As I'm sure you may have guessed, Lauren, that was her name, was absolutely stunning. She was about 5 feet 3 inches. I'd imagine her to weigh about 105 with amazing legs, red hair with a scattering of freckles, and a C cup. She worked in an adjacent office building as Ethan, and they crossed paths in the connecting garage and security desk on occasion and had brief discussions. Apparently, she had a crush on Ethan for quite some time, but he wouldn't have anything to do with her other than friendly conversation. Clearly, he felt free to do so. They'd been seeing each other for a few weeks and were clearly comfortable together. She came over and Ethan grilled some steaks, which she complimented until she was blue in the face. I know all this, of course, because I was peeking out windows and around doors the whole time she was there. She departed at 11, and I feigned to come out of my room for a sip of water. She's pretty, I told Ethan. Yes, she is. Thank you for saying so. Why did you have to bring her here? Was it to teach me a lesson? I don't know what you're talking about, Emma. You saw someone else for over 2 years behind my back. You're going to be extremely jealous of me seeing someone now that we've agreed that we don't know each other. Any fidelity. I don't get you. I guess it's just that. Well, I'm definitely seeing what a self-serving bitch I've been. I'd like to ask now, I guess, beg you to take me back. I mean, truly take me back. Talk to me in a year and we'll see. Emma, I didn't think it was possible to cry any more tears, but I found a way to make a long story, at least a little bit shorter. I hung in there for the following year. I took an additional part-time job in order to be able to pay a surveillance expert to monitor everything I did through cameras and recording devices, ironic, since I later found out that's how I'd be caught. I had the reports forwarded immediately to Ethan. He never commented on them. He remained cordial with me, but his wall never crumbled. He continued seeing Lauren, and though I made it a point not to subject myself to their time together after that first evening, I assumed they were very serious. It was the longest, and certainly one of the most painful years of my life. I oscillated between self-pity because of how badly this was hurting me, and self-loathing because I knew I had hurt Ethan so badly and deserved everything that was happening to me. Ethan was never blatantly mean or never made. Any remark that would imply any of this was about revenge. I'm guessing he just needed this time to regain the dignity he felt he had lost. At the end of my year of purgatory, I approached Ethan. Ethan, can we talk? Sure. Emma. What up? Well, you may not remember, but it has been a year now. Yes. I was thinking that same thing. So can we discuss being husband and wife again? I think you would agree. I've done everything you've asked. In fact, and you may assume this, but I don't want to leave it to chance that you do, so I want you to know that I have spent much of the past year reflection. I finally figured out what made me do it. I wish I had an answer that painted me in a different light, but it was very simply selfishness on my part. I wanted everything we had together, but also wanted the added excitement of something illicit on the side. It actually wasn't about Bill at all, nor was it about anything missing between us. I told myself in the beginning that I wasn't hurting you if you didn't find out. Now that I have had time to stand back and think about it on emotionally, I'm ashamed of myself. I mean, I was ashamed at the time, of course, but clearly not enough to stop it. I want you to know I'm prepared to do whatever you want, to make things right between us. I'm pleased and impressed with your thoughts and insight, assuming it's genuine. Of course. That being stated, I need to let you know that Lauren and I have decided to get married. I have developed strong feelings for her, and while I do not want to hurt you, I believe she is a better match for me in many ways. We connect emotionally, mentally, and intellectually in ways that I think complement me better, and she also shares interests like playing golf that align with mine. I'm so sorry to upset you, but now I do need to go ahead and obtain that divorce. Ethan halted for a quick moment and stared at me, then turned and went away. I collapsed on the floor, crying out everything I had left in my heart. Here's the next story. There are many different types of cheaters, and each one has a unique story to tell, we using realistic voice to giving you my advice and input on what to do. My girlfriend Emma cheated on me and made an excuse that she dancing practice with her male friends has asterisk weeping as exercise yet as asterisk ripping. Emma said there has had to be a million different ways to work out that don't entail taking off your clothing. Tyler protested. Moreover, your body is already flawless. I don't understand why you're so concerned with exercise. It's about keeping what I have. I actually am content with my figure, but it never hurts to tone up a little. And yes, there are other ways to work out, but there are also lots of benefits to S** ripping. Emma continued, it requires a lot of stamina and core strength. It works almost every muscle in the body, especially stabilizing muscles that help maintain balance. Furthermore, it is enjoyable and boosts self-esteem. Emma and Tyler have been dating for 2 years. They met after returning to their hometown after college. Tyler was a year older than Emma, and they never really crossed paths growing up. Their chance encounter happened at a popular local bar. Their respective groups of friends combined through a mutual friend that floated around in both circles. After hitting it off, Tyler asked Emma out on a date, and the rest is history. Tyler had almost grown accustomed to Emma's spontaneous, wild ideas, but this was one that even he was unprepared for. Okay, I guess that makes sense, but I have to be honest with you, I'm really not comfortable with you working at a S* rib club. Oh, I wouldn't be going to A** rib club, that gets too sketchy, and the guys at those places don't exactly have a lot of respect for women. Tyler felt a sense of relaxation. Okay, sorry I didn't receive it. I didn't realize you meant you were going to be alone when you said that. Well, not alone. That would be weird and not very fun. Furthermore, I believe that playing off the spectator is essential to the dynamics of dancing and asterisk ripping. So you were saying you want me to watch us? Asterisk tear. Tyler was beginning to like the idea. No, I can't with you. The dynamic isn't there. If it's in front of a significant person, I can't really explain it. In any case, a group makes for a more engaging audience. Then, for who? My friends. Who else? Emma chuckled, as if it were an obvious conclusion. Tyler had long been frustrated and jealous that Emma hung around. mostly guys. Throughout their relationship, they were never fully absorbed into each other's circles of friends. Emma was the only girl in her group of friends. Tyler had no worries about Emma cheating, but he did not trust the guys. There were 4 of them: Austin, Zach, Matt, and Cody. She said she was one of the guys, but their actions suggested to Tyler they wanted more. I'm sure they'd all love to see my girlfriend body. What if they try something? Tyler, relax. I'm not receiving an asterisk. Cared for them, and all of the flirting and play jokes between us is just that. Jokes. Isn't this just the same old thing? Because it means nothing. It's like acting. When you are acting, you may kiss or have a love scene, but this is not cheating because it is not genuine. Yes, asterisk ripping and dancing are fun, but not when done in front of others. And these folks I trust. It's not like with strangers where my safety might be at risk. Tyler resigned himself to the fact that Emma wasn't changing her mind, and he really did trust her. Okay, Emma, but can you just do a favor for me? Sure, honey. What did you have in mind? Just to help me feel better that the guys are behaving themselves. Can you send me an occasional text when you do this so I know what's going on? And maybe a selfie. Emma rolled her eyes and laughed. Such a warrior. But if it makes you feel better, then okay, I'll do that tonight. Tonight? It's Friday. I was hoping we could hang together tonight. Sorry, hun. Austin is holding a campfire, and I already told him I'd be there, but we'll hang out tomorrow. I promise. Chapter 1. The Bonfire. Emma. Emma, as usual, was the last to arrive. The boys were expecting it, and they continuously ridiculed her about it. Look who finally arrived. Typical woman takes forever to get ready. Emma laughed. Oh, hush. You know I am worth waiting for. Zach chimes in. Yeah. Come on, folks. You know Emma needs 1 extra hour to do makeup to disguise her terrible goblin face. Emma began playfully hitting his head. Oh, shut up, little bee. Asterisk. Stop, stop. I was just kidding. You know you're attractive. As Zach tried concealing his head. That is better. Emma solely stuck out her tongue. Actually, I had to stop at home to change into my gym clothing. Emma was wearing an attire more suitable for the club than a gym. Low-rise denim shorts, heels, a tight t-shirt exposing her midriff, and a small open vest over the top. What kind of workout do you intend to do in that? Matt asked. It's interesting that you ask. Remember when we were drinking last weekend and Cody mentioned seeing something on Facebook about pole dancers being really athletic and burning a lot of calories? Well, I performed my own research. And it's true not just with pole dancing, but as asterisk grippers too. In fact, dancing can be even better. I wanted to attempt something and needed an audience, so I thought of you. The guys looked at each other in disbelief. Well, one of them uttered. Emma quickly followed up with, I don't mean I'm getting an asterisk in front of you guys, just getting down to the bare minimum to stay covered and practicing my moves. Like I said, the idea is to work out, so the point of dancing and lap dancing isn't a play or thing. Besides, since I won't be an asterisk head and we are all friends, there will not be anything playful about it. The lads all answered almost immediately in favor of Emma's proposal. Absolutely. There isn't anything clever about that. Happy to help in any way I can agree, Emma. Sounds like a fantastic method to work out. Emma was overjoyed by the outpouring of support from her friends. Awesome. You guys are such great pals. Let me start playing some music. Emma paused. Oh, I just have to do something first. Really quick. First. Emma remembered her promise to Tyler. She rapidly rattled off some texts and placed her phone out in front of her to shoot a photo. Are you ready to start? Tyler? Tyler wasn't happy. His girlfriend was dancing in front of her male buddies. He didn't even feel like going out. He just sat at home streaming some old shows and waiting by his phone to hear from Emma. His phone changed, signaling he had gotten a text. It was Emma. Emma. Hey, hun, I just wanted to let you know that I'm about to start, and I'm quite excited. The boys are wonderful gentlemen and extremely supportive. Tyler was confident they were highly supportive. Emma, they are totally cool with it and agree it's a great workout idea. Emma. Oh, almost forgot. Here is a pic. Nothing inappropriate. The picture dropped right after. It was difficult to see her entire outfit, but it certainly fit the bill for us. Asterisk ripping. It was pretty revealing, and Tyler began to feel flustered that she was going to be dancing around in that for her friends. At least she isn't taking any of it off for them, he stated out loud to himself. Over an hour passed without hearing anything. A couple dances shouldn't take too long, he reasoned. Tyler chose to text her. Tyler? Hey, babe. How is everything going? About 15 minutes went by before he got a response. Emma. Oh, sorry, hun. I didn't notice your text until now, but things are going great. The boy stated I'm extremely good and gave me some good feedback and constructive criticism. A picture immediately followed. It was a full-body image, clearly shot by someone else. Emma was wearing only a bra and thong. Tyler, I thought you weren't taking off any clothes. Emma, I only said I wouldn't get not asterisk, Chad, but I have to take some clothes off for it to be an asterisk. Ripping, stupid. They can't see much more than if I was wearing a bikini. Tyler couldn't say much. She made a good point, and he should have discussed limits with her a little more thoroughly. Tyler. Who took the picture? Emma. I think that particular one was taken by Zach. I wanted to see how I looked, so I asked the guys to take pictures and send them to me. Tyler wasn't delighted that her guy friends all have racy images of his girlfriend now. Emma, I'm delighted this went so nicely. Totally my favorite new workout. I will tell you more tomorrow. I can't wait. Love you, babe. Chapter 2. Emma burst into Tyler's apartment the day after the bonfire, clearly in a cheerful mood. Hello, honey. Sorry it took me so long to get over here. I was just so tired this morning after being out so late. Actually, about last night, Emma cut Tyler off before he could finish. You are really anxious to hear about it, aren't you? I knew you'd get a little kick out of it. Actually, Noah. But before Tyler could protest, Emma was already moving on. So yeah, it was an excellent workout. It feels like it hit all of my muscle groups. I admit to being frightened at first, but the boys were so encouraging that I was able to overcome my reservations. Of course, 30 seconds into my first dance, I tripped on my ridiculous high heels. We all laughed, which actually helped me relax more. After that, it was a blast. They gave me so much good feedback like push out your chest more, wiggle your B asterisks, and things like that. Emma's face lit up as she continued to tell Tyler about her experience. Their support was enormous. And speaking of huge, it was quite helpful to watch how they were physically reacting. It let me know that I was doing a good job. Emma giggled slightly at the last comment. How did they react physically? Tyler was fairly sure he knew, but was hoping he was wrong. You know, when doing lap dances, I could feel it when moving my body against their lap. Emma quickly added, not like playful or anything. You're telling me you experienced D** scares. Not precisely. Tyler couldn't help but wonder what she was going to say before she cut herself off. Is this all? Did anything else happen? No, not really. That's pretty much everything I did. Some as asterisk, ripped, teasing, dancing, and lap dances. Then we had some beers and hung out for the next few hours. Then I got dressed and went home. Wait, you hung out with them all that time in just your bra and panties? Yeah, of course. I was comfortable and really didn't see the need to get dressed right away. Plus, the boys were really complimentary about the bra and panties. I chose. Thank you for being understanding with this, Tyler, and for trusting me. Emma kissed him deeply. Oh, and the boys agreed to help me with my workouts on a regular basis. You are such an understanding boyfriend. I knew you'd be okay with it. Right, honey? Yeah, I suppose so. Tyler wasn't happy about this, but also couldn't really discount her explanations offhand. Awesome. I'm getting together with them again Monday evening at Zach and Matt's place. Chapter 3. Monday evening, Tyler. It was frustrating Tyler that Emma was taking so long to text him. He was hoping to nudge her into tamer territory this time, but it worried him that it had gotten so late. He texted her, "Tyler, hey babe, what's going on?" This time Emma responded right away. Emma. "Oh, hello honey. Sorry I haven't texted you yet. We've been having so much fun that I completely lost track of time. You have nothing to worry about. It's asterisk ripping practice with the same way at last time. Nothing crazy." A picture came with the text. Emma was smiling. It just showed her face and shoulders. But Tyler couldn't help noticing there were no bra straps over her shoulders. "Tyler, are you not wearing a bra?" Emma? "Oh, that? Yeah, but it really isn't a huge deal. Nick mentioned that when asterisk rippers dance, they usually shake their boobs in the guys' faces and suggested that I try it to make it more authentic." Tyler. "I don't know about that." Emma. "No. It's true. All the guys said so. Anyway, I started to do that when Austin mentioned my bra was scratching his face." Tyler. "So you just took your bra off?" Emma. "Yup. Cody suggested to take it off. I wasn't sure at first, but he pointed out women go topless in Europe all the time, and one even notices, and that if guys can go shirtless here, then women should be able to. I knew he was right and pulled it off." Tyler. "Okay, well, please don't let things get carried away." Emma. "Of course, hun. You have nothing to worry about." Tyler was definitely getting nervous. His girlfriend just showed these guys her body. He had no choice but to hold out. Hope things didn't go any further. Emma. "Sorry, guys, I just had to text my boyfriend." Emma shrugged her shoulders. "He's a warrior," Cody asked. "He really doesn't have a problem with this?" "No, I have explained to him. You guys are just helping me with my workout and with practicing." Zach chimed in. "Well, I'm glad we can help you, and I've been wanting to compliment you. You really have beautiful Emma." The other guys nodded in agreement. Emma held both of her, pushing up slightly and looking at them. "They really are perfect, aren't they?" Then she laughed. "Just kidding. But thank you. That means a lot." Chapter 4. Phone Call. On the drive home, as Emma got to her car to drive home, she noticed a text from Tyler asking her to call him when she was done. Tyler answered right away. "Hey, Emma. Hello, honey. You wanted me to call you?" "Yeah. I just want to talk to you and ask what happened tonight. It sounds like you got pretty crazy." "Well, you really enjoy hearing about my little as-asterisk teases, don't you?" Emma said seductively. "No, that's not what I'm trying to say." It seemed as though, Emma, I didn't even register Tyler's protest. I'd be happy to tell you all about it. There's really not much to say, though. I practiced my asterisk whipping just like last time, and the guys gave me advice on how to improve. Again, tips like the rubbing my on their faces. I really think all their advice made everything more authentic. And then Emma started to giggle uncontrollably. "What is it?" "Oh, nothing," Emma said, continue to giggle uncontrollably. "What's so funny?" Tyler insisted. "Well, it's nothing. It's just a funny thing that happened. It's kind of silly a thing. They were all teasing me about." "Teasing? About what?" "Honey, don't take this the wrong way." "What?" Jake stammered. "I said don't take it the wrong way, silly. I'm not saying I was aroused exactly, but my G asterisk. It's were. It's different." "Different? How?" "Well, it's perfectly natural with the excitement of the dancing and grinding during lap dances. It's just my body reacting, just like your body responds. Again, it's playful, but not playful. I was working out, so it was a non-playable thing for me, but it's still a playful thing to my body." Tyler was trying hard to grasp this concept as Emma continued. "For example, if I'm giving Cody a lap dance for me, it's just like I'm running through the paces. This is my workout, and this is what you do for a workout. All business and not play all at all." Tyler's mind was swimming. This was way more than he had thought. Went on. He felt as though he could throw up. He said, "Look, everyone, Emma's has a boner." Emma broke into a belly laugh. "Isn't it so funny?" So after that, the boys kept teasing me about me. Tyler did his best to maintain his composure. "I don't know, Emma. This is starting to sound pretty playful to me." "No, like I said, it's not playful at all between me and the guys, even if some of what goes on seems playful. It's just part of practicing as asterisk ripping is all." "All right. Can you at least tell me none of the guys touch her or anything today?" "No worries, honey. We just practiced." She was careful not to lie by claiming they did not touch her, instead simply explaining that it was practice. She was going to dance for the guys again in a couple of days, and didn't want Tyler to be weird about it. Chapter 5. Asterisk. Ripping leads to a new workout. Emma. "I don't know, fellas. My are one thing, but if I get completely an asterisk that you guys will see my body, that seems like it might be a little too much, don't you think?" Matt replied, "It really isn't a big deal. Think about it. Like you mentioned, it's just practice. It's not play all between us. It's just friends helping a friend. And this would help you make the experience a lot more authentic. And like we've said in the past, making this more authentic will make it easier for you to fully get into your workout to get the full physical benefit out of it." "I guess you have a point." That's when Austin spoke up. "What if we received an asterisk? That way you won't feel so self-conscious." "Yeah, that could work." A grateful look came across Emma's face. "Thank you for being so understanding and helping me through this, guys. Tyler, why does she have to take so long to text?" Tyler became increasingly frustrated as he waited, wondering what those guys were up to with his girlfriend. Finally, his phone chimed as the long-awaited text came in. "Emma. Hello, honey." A picture came through at the same time it had been taken by one of the guys. It was from behind Emma. "Her looking back over her shoulder and completely an asterisk," said Tyler. "Why the asterisk, L? Are you an asterisk?" said Emma. "Oops, wrong picture. Sorry, hun." Tyler. "Why are you an asterisk, kiddo?" Emma. "It's nothing. I knew you'd jump to conclusions. It was finally. Just like we had to make this truly authentic, to really make it a worthwhile workout. And it worked. I'm so much more into it, and it's so much more intense this way. Tyler, I just don't get how you could get an actress cat." Emma. "They are such sweethearts, aren't they?" Tyler. "Sweethearts." Emma. "Yeah, but these guys are huge. I mean, they were all bigger than you." Tyler. "Did they?" Ducky. Emma. "OMG, no. What do you think this is?" "It's just all practice. This isn't about play. It's about practicing something I really enjoy to work out." Tyler. "Are you really saying you just worked and nothing more?" Emma. "That's correct. Honey, just practice." Tyler. "Okay. I guess as long as it doesn't become anything more than practice, I love you." So they saw Emma. An asterisk said, which is what Tyler had feared. It made it that much worse that she had seen them. An asterisk had to, but Tyler could at least take comfort in the fact that it wouldn't be going any further than that. Emma. Emma was relieved she managed to calm Tyler down. Honestly, it had become a little more than just a workout for Emma. She was truly enjoying the experience, but it wasn't necessary for Tyler to know that. Emma put her phone down and looked around at her friends sitting around the room chatting. "I still feel like I've got another round in me. How about you guys?" "Emma asked me first this time," answered Austin. "Here I come, big boy." Emma began to dance over Austin as Cody started playing some music. "Can one of you hand me my phone?" Emma asked with a devilish smile. "I need to let Tyler know I'm working out again tomorrow." Tyler. Tyler smiled and sighed in relief as he read Emma's last text messages. Emma. "Hey, honey, I can't hang out tomorrow. Discovered a new workout routine that I want to start doing on a much more regular basis." Emma. "Definitely not doing the exercise routine anymore." "Glad that's finally over," Tyler said to himself. Thank you for listening to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Also, leave a comment below to share your thoughts on what happened. Take care.